Now I would like to request His Excellency M. Riaz Hamidullah, Honorable Ambassador of Bangladesh to the Netherlands, to please come up for our second keynote presentation, Circular Economy in Bangladesh, Challenges and Opportunities. Duration of this keynote is 15 minutes.
Please just spare 15 or 20 minutes, and I might take you a little bit on roller coaster. So if I be cryptic, please excuse me for that. Let me tell you, when July 2020, exactly 3 years back, in the middle of COVID, I land up in Netherlands. 15 July, I go and present my credentials, which is a formality in diplomatic life, to His Majesty the King. One of the first things the King asked me, আমাদের যদি কারো কথা বলার থাকে প্লিজ আমরা একটু শুনি। One of the first things the King asked is that, Ambassador, are you aware that the Dutch economy will go circular by 50% by 2030? I calculated, that was exactly 10 years. I was shocked. And they said 100% by 2050. Over the next 3 years, as of today, I see that three big things are actually moving. And if we think that these are about Europe, these are the rest of the world, not to impact on Bangladesh, I think we will be wrong. And that's what was coming one morning, and Kim said most imminently as well. We started with sustainability. I see some of the captains of Bangladesh apparel industry and manufacturing. Please understand, it's sustainability we are familiar with, let's say 7 or 8 years back, but circularity, it's not a fad, it's not a fashion statement, it's true, but also decarbonization. These all three things are sort of converging, and these have very serious impact for Bangladesh. It's not as much as for us to catch up. For me, as an ambassador, as a public servant, I think it's also about Bangladesh's economic future. How do we secure it? As also, how do we make the niche? As by 2026, 28, we go into the next domain, which is the middle income economy. How do I move? Okay, I think you can skip. Okay, this is important for everyone in the room, whether you're a manufacturer, whether you're a student, or maybe an academic. Why I'm saying these four big things? We are obsessed with a bit of linearity. We think that we are right now 37th or 35th, and it will happen in natural progression. So we may take relax, so we have the numbers, we have the domestic propulsions, so it will automatically take us by 2030 to be within the top 30, and then we might progress further. I think we need to really look back. 2026, 28, when we go into middle income economy, we will be faced with a number of responsibilities, obligations, and also the real bite from the market, and one being the circularity. Because if my competitors, competing countries in the market are already at par in terms of circularity, where shall I pose? Let me put everyone, and I look at Unilever and some of the others as well. Japan, for instance, is already engaged, Mr. Arif from BIDA, is already engaged to decarbonize Southeast Asian economies. So if I, as a Bangladeshi exporter, manufacturer, to go to some X market, whereas the same product, competing product is come from Southeast Asian economy, where would I stand? I will not explain this, but I'm just to point. We are saying that we are a growing manufacturing hub. Can we embrace circularity more, not as a challenge, and that's what Kim was saying, but more as an opportunity. So if again, it adds to my competitiveness, not simply cost, but also innovation. I was in Sri Lanka, and I saw how the Sri Lankan manufacturers, apparel manufacturers with high cost economy, high labor, not the demographics on their side, were actually, just because of innovation, are on the right side. Water. Again, another story. 2 years back, a Dutch man comes to me and said, Ambassador, I have some fascinating water solutions which can make a water circularity. After 15 minutes, I said, if you go and land up in Dhaka, don't talk of circularity. Why? I said, go to an apparel manufacturer and say that sustainability is good maths. It will improve your balance sheet. Mr. Shahidullah Azim is there. And then we got, so the making circularity or sustainability in terms of economics and being able to sell it to a manufacturer is the real thing. Next. Now let's begin the real conversation. I'll not explain. I went to the #1 agri-science university in the world, which is in the Netherlands. And the conversations, just look at it and try to understand. is that, look at a maize plant, ekta bhutta gach. So we take from a maize plant, we get maybe this much of product, but let's say maize. Meaning 75 of the plant we are actually throwing away. Meaning 75 of the protein which is embodied in the plant we are throwing away. Look at jackfruit. We are taking this thing, but much of the protein is contained in the inner shelf. Now the research is ongoing that we can make fascinating things, which is not only, we generally think of jackfruit as in terms of the livestock, etc. But it's a high protein fruit. So there was an instance from pineapple, but think of banana, which is in abundance. These are the next level research which will transform the whole industry, and then it will make business case. Question and issue is, can I, as an entrepreneur, as an innovative entrepreneur, catch up and be ahead of others and sort of turn the costing or the balance sheet on my side? Fisheries, fascinating experience. If you go to Norway, 1 kg of salmon sells for, you might think that why Bangladeshi ambassador is speaking for global. There is a reason. 1 kg of salmon sells for €7, but the residue sells for €22. What does it mean? Business case. Question and issue is that how do you look at it? So Kim, I would slightly add to you, when we talk of technology, everything, I think there are 3 more fundamental elements to transformation to sustainability, circularity. The attitude, my ability to take risks, my appetite to take risks, move away from comfort zone. I think this would be important if we can explore later, because the world of decarbonization is not going to be an easy one. Next. Urbanization. 1971, Bangladesh gets liberated. Less than 1%, 1% কম সংখ্যক লোক was in the urban spaces. Not simply Dhaka, maybe Feni, Golachipa, or Thakurgaon Shohor. Today, 40%. Projection is by 2030, 7 years now, 48% of Bangladesh population will be in urban space. Do we realize? This will be dotted mostly by women, also by young people. Their attitude will be different. They will be connected to Ottawa, Toronto, New York, London, everything. Maybe sitting in Noakhali or Panchagor, but they'll be thinking alike thanks to social media. So as a producer, as a consumer, FMCG company, what kind of things are so? Their value system is also going to transform. That's the challenge. Question and issue is that will I be able to catch up with the transformation or attitude? At the same time, I've not explained that. I think the mayor said it most eminently. We can elaborate further as we go into conversation. But e-waste, people often tend to think that e-waste is something of the West. It's not yet there in Bangladesh, but I think I saw a Daily Star report which was eminently clear that e-waste is almost on our doorsteps in terms of a major challenge. And we think that this is a challenge, we think that this is a wasted thing, but we are exporting it back to somewhere else, whereas we could have turned it around. Look at cotton waste. Some of you can vouch. I know if I was told that 15% of cotton is getting wasted, which instead of being able to convert to our advantage, we are exporting it away. I'll not explain to plastics, but someone told me 2 days back, I think maybe someone is in the room, one of the Bangladeshi is already championing, who is converting from the PET plastics into plastic shuta, meaning thread. So see, and we had a fascinating conversation with Nourish, where he already has stepped into converting some of the poultry wastes into business case, almost business case if I'm not wrong. Next. This is the big space. I'll only pick up one, which is construction. Now, I was only wondering that if in India, in places like Pune, we often, a recycled plastic could be used to replace bitumen, and have it much more durable, a business case in terms of the carpeted road. Why not here? I think in terms of the challenge then would be that we look at the policy, not only the policy space, some of the regulatory space, means, for example, in this case, Bangladesh National Building Code, for instance. We are talking about average heat increasing, which would mean that many of the buildings, construction material that we're using, construction techniques that we are using, might soon be coming to question. Now, one day, a gentleman comes to me and asked, Mr. Ambassador, I heard that there's a very fascinating fiber in Bangladesh called jute, pat. So I said, yes, we have. I showed him a bit of fiber. The next thing is that, you know, we are thinking of replacing or blending jute with cement and making the next level of material. As the conversation progresses, I was told that there is discussion to even replace steel rod, because of the carbon heaviness. That's why I started saying that circularity and decarbonization are actually coming together or moving in tandem. So by 2050, it should not surprise us, as we heard from ADB, I think HSBC, SCB, and many of the other global lenders might change their portfolio. If not, they have already done now. And that would eventually push every one of you. So if you, as a factory owner, you invest and say that, I was not aware of, I was not told, and then why is it coming? Don't think this is coming as prescription. It's truly coming from consumers. And if you think it's to come in the long run, so I'm only reminded by James Keynes, who said in the long run, we all are dead. I'm not going into light engineering in electronics. In the interest of time, we can come back. But hold on to construction, for example. When I say that we are fast urbanizing, do we realize when we look at our real estate, sometimes we complain that it's rampant construction, everything going. But that's only demand. Demand and supply equation which is determining. But the question is that if there is 2 to 3% increase in heat, will the kind of glass that we're using, the cement or the tiles or the bricks that we're using, and we know, for example, that there are now bricks which are least carbon footprint oriented. So how do we then create the pathway? Yes, let's move next. Energy is another big space. We heard a bit from Mr. Sabir Chaudhary. I'll not explain, but I'll only bring you towards the down below, which is the horizon and the trade-offs. Because in the process, if you move to circular economy, if you are to do away with dirty fuel or energy, and then how do we go? I would only underline one thing. In 2009, when solar PV sale was being looked at, if the cost was $100, today it has come down to $10. My take, as I think I also told you, Kim, that we often think of technology to be much expensive, which is right, because it's a niche technology we are talking about or looking at right now. But I think once the cycle of goods starts coming in, then we'd see the volume would come in, and then progressively cost will come in. But the bigger question for a Bangladeshi entrepreneur would be, do I wait till the time when it becomes everyone's game and then I come? But then your niche may not be there. So it's a bit of tricky situation we might face. Next. Transportation is fascinating. I moved into a hydrogen cell fuel plant. I was shown a 20-foot container. Now a 20-foot container might surprise you. I was told that 20-foot container with the cell fuel, these cassettes like structures, generate 2 megawatt of power, which is good enough to run a ship. Point is, the global maritime shipping industry is changing. It's circulating, but more so it's going to be decarbonized. The similar changes is coming to global aviation industry. Eventually it would come to every other level. Therefore, my other submission to every one of you is, please do not think that I'm an export-oriented manufacturing industry, so only that if I'm in the export industry, I will be hit or I have to be cautious. No. Eventually, when we become a middle-income country, as per the extended responsibility and accountability, I have to be mindful that I do not do anything that impact on my natural resources or environment. So it is not going to come under a prescription. It's only part of shared prosperity and shared responsibility. Let's be mindful of that. So as a biscuit company or as a sheep maker or as a shirt maker, don't think that it's someone else's responsibility or someone else's concern. Next. I think we have said it. I will not explain, but I will only pick up one element, which is chemicals. Chemicals is the big issue. Chemicals is part of life. There is not a single facet of life, I think we can say that it's without chemicals and will be without chemicals. There's an organization called OPCW. We understand the science and the way it's evolving. So from in the interface of artificial intelligence, biology, and chemistry, it's be no element, no material will be left without chemicals. Question is that how do we really make? One part of it is technology, but I think the other important part is how do we influence the behavior, preferences of an individual entrepreneur, individual consumer. That is important. So I underline that even in a question of Bangladesh's domestic economy, the way we do things within Bangladesh, and we may think that no, it's not anything that will be imposed on us, interfered on us. No, I think we have to really take a deeper look, sit back. Yeah, next. This is the last slide. And this essentially would call for every one of us. And I'll not explain, I'll only request that please have a look at it, but let me explain what and why I'm trying to say. I'll go back to a couple of things. It's all about whether you're an exporter or domestic manufacturer, it's all about creating your niche. Let us be mindful. Eventually, by 2028 or 2030, it will be a flat economic space for Bangladesh. We will have multiple free trade agreements. We will have to open up our economies. The economies will be liberalized. So tariff-based protection, forget about it. If not, then your cost competitiveness will come into question. What is the innovation that you have? And then how do you be at par with them? So every entrepreneur in the room, please understand circularity is not something, a fad or something in the moon. It's real. It's circularity and decarbonization together which have to be taken into cognizance. It's also about securing Bangladesh's economic future. Sometimes I often ask to my own colleagues that if we think other than apparel manufacturing, which is the next thing, industry to look at, and why is the science, technology, and innovation which it has of its own? And if we are to leapfrog, I look at it more as a leapfrog opportunity. If that is to be the case, even if electronics or shipbuilding, how can we really bring in the tier of circularity, layer of circularity up front and get the edge? And I also look at agriculture and food, the whole of agri-food landscape. Look at the metropolitan food cluster, for instance, because the next generation of food production, distribution, consumption will be in the cities, 50%, or if not 67% by 2040. In that case, what kind of food system, agri-food system do we really need and how do we really look? It's about attitudes as well. So it's about preferences and also our attitude, my mother's attitude, my homemade's attitude, as also my own attitude, not only in terms of disposing the waste, but also recirculating. Sorry, I have to finish, yeah. And I think there were some of the fascinating things. I think the ADB representative also said, I would not repeat that, but also I think towards the end we can really enmesh and see that how we create a space for conversation.